Welcome, everyone. We got JD here today, and he's going to share a little bit more about his transformation with the Kinetic method over the past 6 months. So welcome, JD.
Thanks, Mauro.
Good to have you on. So before we get into the meat and potatoes, let's start a little bit with your background, like what you do in your day-to-day life, your age, your height, your weight, so that people get a full understanding on your situation, and then we can shift gears.
All right. Right now I'm 42 years old. Mostly military pilot for the last 20 years. Went to FedEx Express in March of 2018, and I've been flying on the backside of the clock for the last five years or so. And most of my career in the Air Force was flying at night too. And 6-8 months ago, or up to the last 6 or 8 months, I was right around 225, 230 pounds, fluctuating quite a bit. Never really never really paid attention to what I was eating, really. Just kind of, with 3 kids, as the dad bod, garbage disposal, really not paying attention to a whole lot of it, and then trying fad diets from time to time, especially in the military, getting around to fitness test time and trying to decrease my BMI and making sure I was passing the waist measurement for the Air Force test, and never really had any problems athletically, meeting the standards. I was scoring excellence the last 4 or 5 years I was in the Air Force, but really not a picture of any kind of health. Definitely wasn't the leader in the household. We're active family, but we're not like, running around doing a whole lot of, extreme activity or even intense activity. And I just got soft, and really, one of my best friends, one of the guys I've known for a really long time, turned me on to you. So I kind of investigated a little bit, and then I think the real trigger for me, or the turning point for me to pull the trigger with you, was my youngest daughter said that I look like Shrek, and
Wow.
she kind of pushed my button, and she was teasing her. She's 6 at the time. She's like, "Yeah, Papa, you look like Shrek." And I was like, I got to make a change, because that one cuts a little deep. But yeah, so I gave you a call there in November, December, and we got started right around the first of the year. And it's been a really good 6-7 months now.
Wow, I've heard a lot of stories where there was like that one moment that was a shifting or a pivot moment for a lot of guys, but the one with Trek, that's like top 3 all time.
Yeah, now, fortunately, and they've seen the amount of work that I put into it, and from the nutrition side to it, then, and the staying active side to it. And we talk a lot about it at home, about being balanced and taking care of your body, everything from, stretching and walking and lifting heavy things, doing those things. And now it just feels that much better. It's so much sweeter to say, oh yeah, your belly used to be out to here, and now it's back here. And so they notice it and they see it. And I think it's important for our kids to see us. I know you've got other clients that have had similar experiences, and I think that's the proudest achievement of this entire process so far, is that my daughters notice and they see it, and they know, they're learning the proper way to treat their bodies.
That's true leadership, right? It's like you standing in front and leading, and not just preaching from the table and giving them apples and oranges to eat, and then you're sneaking in fries and chips on the couch. Yeah. Which I think lacks integrity. And a lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of dads out there, do so.
Mhm.
So let's talk about a little bit more on your job, your work. You have a quite unique situation compared to most guys in the program, but also most men around that take care of their fitness. You're probably more in the air than you're down here on earth,
Yeah.
on the ground, if you want to call it that way. But like, what challenges would you say brought that to your lifestyle, maybe also to being successful with your fitness and health prior to the kinetic method, with all the travels and jet lag and time zone changes? Because you know it from, and you hear it from a lot of guys, and I hear it as well, where they say, hey, you know what, I'm traveling, I'm going to gain weight. And there's always this, I travel, I gain weight, I travel, I gain weight, I travel, I gain weight. A non-stop roller coaster excuse that a lot of men have. In your case, like, you can't really use that as an excuse. I mean, you can, but that was not a choice for you. So I'd love to have a little bit more insight there, and your mindset, your thought process as well with that situation.
Well, for for me doing this job, you fly it, you take off around, or you should go to work around 8 p.m. You're usually flying between 2 and 3 hours late evening. So say 10 p.m. to midnight, you land, and then you get a chance to go inside, and FedEx is a great uh, um, rest program. We've got sleep rooms with cool rooms with the soft bed that we can lay down and take a nap, and then for 2 maybe 3 hours, and then you get back in the airplane and you fly, and you're landing around 5:30, 6 a.m. And for me, previously, it's like, well, I landed, I'm back at the hotel. Oh, there's a free breakfast here. So now I got a free breakfast, and I can, with everything buffet, a lot of times, and everything that's on the buffet, the sweet breakfast things, all the protein, the high fat things, and then shovel all that into the body, plus maybe a cup of coffee, because who doesn't really like breakfast without a cup of coffee? And then, oh, now I need to get some sleep. And the quality of that sleep obviously is terrible, because as soon as the sun comes up, and for me, as soon as the sunlight hits my eyeballs, and my body wants to be awake. So trying to force myself to get into better routines, and everything that I've learned in this program solidified some things that I already suspected based on my previous experiences, but just really how important sleep is to our overall health, and then how much of a routine is how our routine is so important to sleep, and just really crazy to think about, because as a dad of young kids, like, oh yeah, 7:30, 8 o'clock, our kids need to be in bed so they get good rest, so they're not wild, they're not fussy the next day or whatever. So a big thing that helped me in this program was developing a routine that worked for me, that checked all the boxes, so I was getting good nutrition while also getting good rest, and then also using those waking hours to get the steps in, and to get some cardio fitness in, because when you're flying for 6 hours a night, and then turn around and you need to eat, sleep, work out, and get all that, 24 hours gets pretty short pretty quick. So the biggest thing for me is developing that routine, and planning my weekly trips in advance. So I have a game plan going in, and Raul and I talked about this several times, of being able to adjust when the schedule changes. If I would end up in a different city, and or in a city where the hotel gym wasn't very good, or it just wasn't very good nutrition options along the way. So routine, having a plan, and then being able to adjust whenever that plan had to get tossed out the window due to whatever extenuating circumstances.
It's good. I appreciate you sharing those insights and even bigger picture of where you came from, because while a lot of guys will say like, oh, my situation is not easy, you're one of the only ones who we can really say your situation is definitely not easy to make this work, but you made it work with exceptional results. And we can see your abs already, and the other four, 3-4 abs or 2-4 abs, depends how many we see, depends on the progress photo, are coming out. So if you look at the other side of all the work you've put in and the commitment you've brought to the table, let's talk about results, maybe visibly tangible, but also how you feel, energy, emotional stability, all of that.
Yeah, I feel phenomenal, and just came off of 5 days in Munich, where I mean, honestly, slipped off a little bit. There's so much great beer and so much great food, Bavarian food there in Munich. I really felt it after 2 nights of eating out, and I was still getting in the gym. I was still getting my steps in, and it's still getting off the macro plan, getting off the nutrition plan just for a couple days. I really, I really felt it, which is to say that I am far more in tune with what's happening with my body right now than I have been, that I can ever really remember. It only took, I'd say, I mean, I started between December and January, or Christmas and New Year's. And by the end of January, I was already noticing significant changes to how I was feeling and how I was looking. My wife had already started making comments as well. So, and a lot of that is just understanding, for me, what I eat is as important as how and when I eat those things. How it affects my sleep, how it affects my energy to fly, how it affects my energy to work out. So I don't know if that kind of answers the question, but from start to finish, it's been a steep learning curve. I mean, it's been awesome, and I feel so much better. I can run around with my kids. They started playing field hockey this in February, and I'm able to run out there and do their fitness with them. We play a lot more, whether it's field hockey or rugby or tennis, or we walk as a family so much more. I know my body is far less inflamed than it has ever been, and a huge part of that is alcohol. Just I know that's a conversation you and I specifically had early on, because I was coming home from my schedule is basically 1 week of work and then a week off and then another week of work and week off. And it's essentially how it plays out. Well, during those weeks off, I don't have anywhere to be or anything to do. So 2 o'clock rolls around. It's like, I'll have a cocktail while I'm getting dinner ready or whatever, and then next thing I know, it's 2 or 3, 4 or 5 cocktails on a Wednesday afternoon. For what reason? Because I was bored, I guess. I don't know. But cutting that stuff out, decrease the inflammation, watching the carbs, living in Germany, living in Europe, where so many great pastas and breads and pastries, all that good stuff. Really cutting back on those things, just really noticed the decrease in inflammation and the increase in energy once I started metering and the intake of all those things that I'd be willing to bet almost everybody really enjoys. And they're a little more difficult to cut out, but it was just a mindset thing to know that's what we had to do. I mean, and throughout to Raul, he said, he asked me one day, he said, hey, he said, you got to ask yourself, is eating this or drinking this going to get me any closer to my goals? And I'm sure he said that to a lot of guys out there, but it was totally worth it. And now I think about that, even as I sit here in Vienna, and I'm like, oh man, I'd like to really go try a couple more schnitzels in the birthplace of schnitzels. Mm-hmm. And it's just not the right thing. I mean, it doesn't get me any closer to where I want to be.
And that's exactly the big shift and the catalyst for your success, what you just said at the end with this doesn't get you closer. It's not that you can't have it. You can have it in moderation, but we have to practice restraint and knowing and inserting a logical decision instead of just making that emotional argument. It's like, oh, I want it. It tastes good. I only live once. Yeah, but you want to live once like, Shrek or like
Yeah,
Superman, right?
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
difference. And so if you ask yourself, hey, will that get me close to my goal? Then, which is exactly what you're doing, you see those transformational results.
yeah.
So what would you say, from all the programs out there that you've done, was different here?
I'd go immediately to what you just said. This is um, everything else that I had tried before was cutting something out or removing something or restricting me from something, and then adding on a bunch more of something else, like a bunch more running or a bunch more lifting, or but no alcohol, no carbs, whatever it was. Tried different. It was just, not to go too deep into this, but I remember my parents growing up in the 80s and 90s, they were trying the different diets. And there was, looking back on it, it just makes so much more sense. Is none of what they were doing and none of what I have done in my first 40 years of my life, as far as nutrition or diet, was ever sustainable. And once I kind of figured out what you were really teaching and the fundamentals of what you and Raul have taught me, once I got a good foundation of that, it was it was really illuminating in the sense that, hey, I can still do the things that I want to do. And we're living in Europe, and I'm going to be in Paris every month, or every other month, or we're going to be traveling as a family every single month and going out and trying new things and seeing different parts of Europe. It really scared me that I was like, oh man, I'm not going to be able to try the wine from this place, or I'm not going to be able to try the beer from this place, or this dessert. This program was so great for me to be able to say, yeah, I can have this now, but the cost is that I'm just going to, not necessarily even a cost. It's just, I'm gonna have to rebalance my plan for the next day or the next 2 days to accommodate these things. And then, do I really need this? Do I really need this experience to get me to enjoy my time living in Europe, or whatever it is? So I guess all of that to say is the framework here allows us the flexibility to make little mistakes, so we don't feel like a complete failure when I have an extra bread roll or an extra Danish at some random hotel. It's knowing that, hey, these things happen. We still got to enjoy ourselves, but we also need to take advantage of the other really nice things about living here, like being able to walk everywhere. Great walking paths, all the museums. So I'm going to get my steps that way. I'm going to count for these extra calories like this, and then get a good lifting session in on it as well. So I hope that kind of answers it, but it's not nearly as restrictive as what I anticipated and literally feared it to be, which made it a lot easier once I got it down and understood what was happening.
Yeah, this does clarify it and plays exactly into our philosophy, which is sustainability and making sure you see long-term results and not, everyone can do a 3, 4, 6 month transformation, but can you keep those results for 1, 2, 3 decades? And if the answer is no, then why even bother starting or continuing? I have one last question for you. You reached out because of your friend Dave, who I think made a post on LinkedIn, kind of sparked your interest when you saw the results. For all the guys, all the men out there watching, listening to this, and they're maybe a little bit on the fence, maybe they say I can do it on my own, or maybe say, that stranger on the internet, I'm not sure if I should do it. What's your word of advice to the man out there?
I mean, just do it. Just do it. I was really on the fence. It took several months for me to see things, to look into it, and it's like, is this guy for real? Because I looked at the website, I was like, man, this doesn't. I played sports all through college. I played sports into my late 20s, competitive rugby. I was like, I can handle this. I think I can figure this out. And it's kind of what I've mentioned to you before, is that eventually what I was doing wasn't working. And with 3 young daughters living in Europe, um, and flying on the backside of the clock with a sometimes awkward schedule, I needed to acknowledge that I needed the help. And um, I don't regret it for 1 second. I mean, it's the best money I've ever spent. It's a rewarding experience. I think I can't say enough good things about Raul, and frankly, what a relationship that's I would consider a friendship, even though we've never met in person. I'd like to get a workout in with him and go have dinner and chat him up a lot more. But for as much as you can build a friendship via text and helping work through problems, like understanding different concepts that you guys are teaching, um, the whole thing is incredibly rewarding. And if you're sitting on the fence, I would say that you'd be missing a great opportunity to not jump in with these guys and learn from them and create friendships with them. This is great guys. And, you know, I have a feeling it's a long-term relationship, either watching being close or, watching, learning from far with different social media posts or whatnot. So, can't say enough good things about these guys. They've completely changed my life. They've changed the trajectory of the lives of my daughters. It's something Marlo and I have talked about before, and my wife, frankly, too. She started watching. We were 6 weeks into this, and then she really kind of bought into it, and it changed how we ate as a family. My daughters asked me that when we're on family trips and I can sneak them into the gym in those places, they want me to show them different lifts and different things in there, and it's all fun. I mean, I'm not like gonna not throwing them into 1 rep maxes or anything as young girls, but they see it. It's gonna shape how they look at fitness and nutrition and healthy lifestyles down the road. So the impact the Kinetic program has had on my life is immeasurable at this point, and looking forward to maintain these relationships down the road.
Appreciate the nice words and the time you've given us today, and everyone watching this, and letting them into your fitness and health space and transformation. So thank you so much, JD.
Anytime. Thanks a lot, Mauro.